Empire
City Transmission.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Empire City Transmissions. We are the Empire City Garrison of the 501st Legion, and we're here to talk all things Star Wars. You may notice I have some different co hosts with me tonight, and that's because it's Ladies' Night, oh, what night. And I'm really excited. We have a couple of really great topics planned for tonight, all in honor of Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I figured what better way to close it out than with a bit of girl talk and celebrating the women of Star Wars. Before we get into that, though, a quick word from our commanding officer, Justin. Over to you, Justin.
The women of Star Wars. Hey everyone, this is Justin Weiss, commanding officer of the 501st Legion's Empire City Garrison. What can I say about the incredible women of Star Wars? Starting in 1977 with Carrie Fisher's portrayal of Princess Leia. She was a breakthrough type of character. She was not a damsel in distress. She was someone that took charge. She was a leader. She was incredible. And there have been so many more. Characters like Jen Erso in Rogue One, just an incredible portrayal of a powerful person struggling against all types of impossible odds. You then have characters like Ahsoka Tano, perhaps one of the most flushed out characters in Star Wars to date, having an entire, 7-season long series pretty much based on her. She came on the scenes in the Clone Wars animated movie and then, continued to be flushed out all through the Clone Wars animated series. And then again, making her appearance in Rebels and getting her own series later on. The greatest times in Star Wars have always been when these characters are portrayed in such a way that it's just so natural and so perfect. Powerful characters like Mon Mothma, who literally are placed in leadership roles. And then, with the Andor series, you really got to see her struggle, where she came from, where she was going. One of my favorite scenes in all of Star Wars happened in the season finale of The Mandalorian Season 2. 4 characters, amazing characters, Fennec Shen, Casca Reeves, Cara Dune, and Bo-Katan stormed a Star Destroyer, just the 4 of them. And each one of them got an incredible moment, where Bo-Katan and Casca Reeves flew in and saved the day using their Mandalorian jetpacks. And you got to see Fennec Shen in full-on assassin mode. Cara Dune, her repeater jams and she goes around swinging it like a club. The best part about this was how natural it all felt. These characters are incredibly developed. And they really, really, truly add to the world of Star Wars. The best part? Not because they're women, because they're great characters. That is the beauty of Star Wars. Star Wars is for everyone. And this month we celebrate all women and women in Star Wars.
Thank you for that. All right. Well, let's start with some introductions.
Hi, I'm Meg. Nice to meet y'all. I am TX71919, and I have a Shadow Scout. Justin is actually my father, so that is how I got involved.
The princess of the group.
Sure. I handled for the 3 years prior to my joining of him being involved and loved it and decided to get myself a costume, and now I'm here. So hello. That's all I got.
Hi. Okay, I could go next. Hi everyone. My name is Vicky DeLiso. My TK ID is 900791. I got involved in the 501st through my husband, Matt DeLiso. He has like 30 costumes and he's a huge Star Wars fan. So I saw how much fun he was having with the group, and I started helping with handling and just getting to know everybody, and everybody was so great and welcoming, so I decided to join myself, and now I have 2 costumes. So yeah, it's been a really great experience and I'm excited to be here.
All right, last but not least, you made it.
I made it. I am so incredibly sorry that I
No,
was
no
running behind.
worries.
Just my son. My name is Lisa. I have been a member of 501st since 2022. Um, and I joined, well, I actually joined like my first LFL group that I joined, or LFL recognized group, was Saber Guild, and that was back in 2015. And then shortly thereafter, I think it was 2016, I joined Rebel Legion, which is the good guys. And it took me a bit to end up on the dark side, but finally, in 2022, I got myself a Mara Jade costume. And so that costume is dual approved with both Rebel Legion and 501st. And then I also have a dark gray costume. So those are my two 501st costumes.
All right. So let's just dive in then from here. The easiest, most obvious question to start with is our favorite female characters and why. So why don't we just keep rotating in the same order then? So Meg, you go first.
Oh my gosh, put on the spot. Hi.
Yeah, no pressure,
I,
but like,
yeah, no pressure. I have two, honestly. I love Iden Versio from the Battlefront game. I think she was a general, if I'm remembering properly. She is just such a powerful figure in that game. She's your main character. I genuinely love her a lot. And my second is probably Ahsoka. Um, very once again, very powerful woman.
yeah, just
She has so
Ahsoka
many great
things.
moments.
Like,
I also resonated with her a lot, especially like the age that I was watching it. Like, I kind of grew up with her in a way, which was kind of cool. So yeah, those are my favorites.
excellent choices. You can't go wrong with Ahsoka. Like literally
No,
jumping out of
she was
a spaceship
excellent.
without a parachute, just like,
No,
like
no, absolutely.
I went back and forth about this a lot, and I feel like this is a very obvious answer, but I would have to say Leia is probably my favorite female character throughout all of Star Wars. Matt asked me an interesting question when like I couldn't figure out who I wanted to choose. And he was like, well, who would you want Cecilia to grow up to be like? And I was like, oh, I love looking at it that way. And I was
yeah.
like, yeah, I'd want her to be like Leia. Like, she's a great decision maker, and she's a great leader, but she'll also follow if she thinks that that's the best option. And I think that I just think she handles everything with grace. And I also like that she's still feminine, and I think that a lot of times as women, we feel like we need to be like more masculine or like fit into like that man role. But I think our femininity is what like gives us a lot of power. And I just like that she keeps that, but while also being really strong. So I, I really love her.
That's actually something I wanted to kind of like bring up later. But just since you mentioned it, like just to talk about it now, it's so interesting. Like you said, how she keeps that femininity. You see all the time how you have these really powerful women as like main characters or leaders, but they always have this like tomboy-esque
Hmm.
like presentation
Hmm.
to them. Like they're really like strong and powerful, but they never wear pants or they won't wear a dress or anything like that. And like not
Yeah.
only is she in a dress, but she's like, I will jump into this garbage, this trash
Yeah.
compactor if I have to. Like
Hmm.
she's like,
Yeah.
there is nothing she won't do. There's nothing she's like that will stop her from accomplishing whatever her goal is. And that's such like just like a strong, um, yeah, just a strong female character. All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So go ahead, Lisa, you next.
So it's a really hard choice for me. I am partial to a lot of the women characters in Star Wars for different reasons. So I love Leia, and I think Vicky really explained why she's such a great character. I think Padme is also similarly. It's interesting. I'm hearing what you said, Vicky, because Catherine Tabor actually, I just heard her speak at Undiscovered. We trooped that event. And she spoke about Padme in a similar fashion about how Padme is a very strong character, like her daughter, but still maintains that femininity. She doesn't compromise her femininity in order to be a strong character. And I really like that about Padme. I'm also very partial to Ray. I think she's sometimes like a misunderstood character. But I think like her story is very much about found family. I think she's a character that is lost and doesn't like know her place, and she, and maybe not executed always in the most artful way the sequel trilogy, but I think her story is about trying to find that place when you feel like you're an outsider and you don't know where you belong, and finding family in a different way than maybe we are accustomed to traditionally thinking about family. So I really like her journey, and I will always raise Mara Jade because I think Mara Jade fits very much into the themes of Star Wars in that she has that like traditional redemption arc that you see time and time again in Star Wars, and I think she's such a great and dynamic character as well. And I hope one day she'll cross over into canon, but I'm glad we still have her in Star Wars Legends.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask because I'm not super familiar with Mara Jade. I was wondering where she sort of laid in the storyline. So,
So Margie doesn't exist in Star Wars canon after the Disney took over and the
hmm
sequel happened. In the like books, so Timothy Zahn originated her, but other authors have written her, and she shows up in comics and as well. She is a character. She starts as the Emperor's Hand, so she's on the dark side, and she ends up encountering Luke. They have that true, like, sort of like enemies to lovers storyline. She ends up being marrying Luke Skywalker, and she goes from dark side to Jedi. So she has that, same kind of story you see like Anakin, kind of he kind of is the inverse of it, and then by the end of the original trilogy he's back to redemption, and Kylo Ren has a redemption story. Like I think redemption is just a very much a part of Star Wars,
hmm
and so she has like somewhat of a similar type of story.
my two, well, I picked two. I couldn't narrow it down to just one, but so I cheated a little bit. But I guess not so much for her redemption arc, uh, although she kind of has like a little bit of one. But Jin Erso is, I think, my number one, and then I was putting Mon Mothma as like a really close second. But what I love about Jin is, I just thought it was really interesting that she was part of the rebellion, and then was just like, this sucks, F this, and like was like, I don't want to be involved anymore, and then ultimately at the end completely sacrifices her life for the rebellion. So it's just, she goes from I want nothing to do with this to make like paying the ultimate sacrifice, and really is like the key to the rebellion gaining the momentum that it needed to, you know, to get to where, it was in A New Hope. And then Mon Mothma, it, this is gonna sound like so like basic of me, but like her fashion alone, like
Yes,
I
I was gonna
the
say that.
okay, the costuming,
I love her fashion. Like,
It's
I'm
fabulous.
obsessed.
amazing. Yeah.
She's an
Yeah.
incredible character, and like, her again, her and how she works sort of behind the scenes to like continue to push everybody and like really empower everyone, I think is a really special role that she plays. But yeah, her clothes are amazing. So I had to like
Yeah.
mention
It's
that
like
too.
Padme too. Padme has amazing
Yes.
clothes, like it's
She does.
everything. And like
Yeah.
credit to
hmm
the costume designers, they did an
Yeah.
incredible job with these characters.
Even like the
Did you guys
handmaidens,
watch
Padme's handmaidens.
Andor? Oh,
Yes.
yes, they're so
hmm
good. Like
Yeah.
this latest season of Andor, like Mon Mothma's clothes. I like I don't know who did the costuming. I should check. Like they
hmm
were spot on. It was really, really nice. beautifully done.
I've
Um,
seen a couple of like people talking behind the scenes about the sort of like the theory, I guess, or like how they developed the costuming um for I mean not just for Mon Mothma, but for that like her entire like uh oh gosh, what's the word I'm looking for? Not like not just her family, like her class like is
oh yeah, what are they called?
like
Like where she's from?
yeah, like
Chandrallion?
yes, yes. So
Yeah,
like
yeah,
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 and
yeah.
like the upper class of that
Yes,
like
they're like
how they
all
developed that
dressed
whole
very
thing was
well.
yeah,
Hmm.
really amazing. Like the fabrics that they chose, like all of that was like so intentional and it
Yeah,
really just comes through. So
so much that goes into it.
yeah. Yeah, so much that you don't really like realize.
Yeah.
So okay. Well, on that note, on like fun little like fashion talk. um, so let's like the next question that I had asked you guys is what you think the impact Star Wars had on how women are represented in media. So, you know, beyond just being bomb dressers, like how how do you think that, you know, Star Wars may have sort of shifted how women are presented?
I feel like there are a lot of women in Star Wars that like in a way, like okay, I'm gonna bring Leia back up. I feel like a lot of people don't realize how like in charge she kind of seemed to be. I mean, like one of my favorite moments with her, and we were kind of like getting close to this before, but like she takes the gun from was it Luke that she takes the gun from, and she goes, "Somebody has to save our skins," and she like gets them into the trash compactor, kind of like putting herself into a role of like, all right, we're getting this done. Like enough of this. Like no more playing around. Like let's go. You know. And I feel like a lot of women in Star Wars have contributing roles to pushing the story along. And I feel like that's like important and also representation of women in general being that femininity, but also being cool and shooting stormtroopers and not that we talk about shooting stormtroopers, but you know what I mean. I think that
They have
that's
really
important.
great aim, actually.
They do. Listen, purposeful, intentional. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Rebels at all, but I love the I am no Jedi scene with Ahsoka.
Mm.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
feel like that's a really big moment for her because she goes, I'm not gonna leave you again. I don't want to be a part of this. I'm done. I'm not a Jedi, but I'm going to be there for you. And I think that's important. I think that's so important to her role and to the show and all of it. Her character as a whole.
Like it shows the purity and like the strength of her character in that moment
Yeah.
of like even after everything that she went through and after like being betrayed by the Jedi Council, you know, she's still like a, she really is like her core and her essence is still like that
Mhm.
of a Jedi, but like the actual like all the good parts of them, not like the parts that like not that we see it very often, but like I guess like those bits that do like get like corrupted or you know like she maintains like that purity, and I think in that moment it's like by sort of when she says I am no Jedi, it's that you know she's not a Jedi like they are, like
Mhm.
she's her
Yes,
own
she kind of
and
created
which
her own
yeah.
in a
Mhm.
way, and her own like ability to use like the way that she interprets the Force almost like and how she uses it. It's like a whole other version than like what the Jedi Order had. I feel, and I like that. And she kind of like did her own thing with it. And I think that's so powerful as like a woman to look up to someone like that that can beat to her own drum and do her own thing and she doesn't have to follow this organized situation and she can just take her own story and create her and write her own story. I think is the right way to put it. You know, it's kind of fitting into the you can be whoever you want to be kind of drum.
Yeah. I
Mhm.
mean, I feel like just bringing up Leia again, but you know, it was an older movie, and I think that, you know, we wouldn't really have like Katniss Everdeen, we wouldn't really have Hermione, we wouldn't really have these characters if it weren't for Leia. And um, yeah, I just think that. Star Wars in general, the women, starting with Leia and then all of the women that we've had so far in Star Wars, like I think they've all impacted cinema as a whole, a lot more than mainstream media realizes. Because, um, yeah, you don't really put it all together until you, you know, dive more into Star Wars. And I think about like a character like Katniss, and I'm like, well, she's probably modeled after Leia. Like the people who
Mhm.
created her probably thought about Leia, and like I just the the iconic legend feeling that she's had throughout just all of cinema.
Hmm.
And now she's a Disney princess, so like
She is.
even better.
Oh my
So
gosh, I didn't
yeah,
realize
so
that.
yeah, like like so yeah, I think that it's really cool to see.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'll just add, so I think what's really interesting about Leia and like what she started, because I think she influences like Star Wars universe and then like cinema and media beyond. Um, and is that Leia is a very tough character, but she's also a multifaceted character. And I think sometimes like you get like people in other types of movies or TV shows trying to create a strong character like Leia, but sometimes it's only like on a superficial level. I think like Leia is a very tough, like she's like a badass character, but she's not just that. And the movie allowed her to be like very multifaceted in terms of who she was as a person. That she had this tough side, but she also had like a gentler side. She was a person that had to balance duty and almost like often put aside her own needs, her own feelings for like the greater cause. But I think she was such a layered character, and so I find that she's such a good blueprint for other woman characters, particularly not in sci-fi and fantasy and action, but also even like beyond that, because sometimes I think like women can even to this day get kind of like pigeonholed into like sort of like archetypes as opposed to being like multidimensional. And I feel like Leia is one of the first examples that I can recall of being like a fully fleshed out person as opposed to just like fitting into like damsel in distress or even like badass like woman character. Like it's not like one thing. Like she's more than one thing. She's allowed to be more than one thing. That and that's not always the case, but I think she, as I said, creates that kind of blueprint for those types of characters.
Yeah, for
Yeah, that's
sure.
a really good point. That's a really good point because it's like you I think that's why Leia like sticks with everybody, and it's like multiple different demographics, right? Like, men, women, like she just kind of sticks with you. And I think it is because she's so multifaceted, and she is like, she feels so real because, even if I'm always on Instagram, which I know is bad, but like, I'm just likening it to like, you see a creator on Instagram who like their life is just perfect and they're always on a yacht or they're always eating clean. And then, you have another person that you follow who's just showing their real life, and you see that they actually have more followers because that's what people want to see. They want to see all of these different sides of you. And, when you kind of just get when you put a character into one box, they can kind of just be a little bit more forgettable, or they just don't really stick the way Leia did. And um, I love Ray too, but I know that people always give her like she kind of had that like Mary Jane type role that they put her in, where like she could kind of do no wrong, and it felt like she just had the force and everything was just like kind of perfect happening for her. And I feel like that could have been a little bit of Disney just doing their Disney thing, but I think that that's where Leia differs, and she is more character that you can relate to. um so yeah, just Most love for Leia. This should just be the Leia
I
Leia
mean,
talk.
I mean, she's a main character for a reason, right? And
Yeah.
uh, you know, to kind of dovetail on what you were just talking about, or how like when you box up these like female characters, and they become forgettable. They really are just like backgrounds, like just there to be the love interest, or they're just there to like
Hmm.
wear the crop top and look hot, they
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
really serve a purpose. And Meg, you mentioned this earlier, like uh the women in Star Wars really are the driving forces behind everything. Like so much happens because Leia took charge and was like, if
Mhm.
you guys are going to do something, then I'm going to, and I'm not waiting to for you guys to figure this out. And I feel that's true for so many other like female
Yeah.
characters. With if they weren't there, the storyline would have never progressed. The rebellion would have never gotten to where it wouldn't have had any success if it weren't for the women that were behind, and again, pushing things along. And if they weren't these if they weren't shown as being like multifaceted, like you were saying before, Lisa, like again, they wouldn't have been able to effectively, again, push the rebellion to success. So on that note, uh the favorite scene of female empowerment, of course, like Leia strangling Jabba, I think is, of course, peak. The literal chains that he used to tie her down, she uses for his demise. Like you can't find anything more perfectly, you know, representative representative of female empowerment than that. But um, something other than that scene, what do you guys think? Well, you had Meg, you had started on the "I am no Jedi." Yeah, so
I mean, I can yap about Ahsoka more if you want me to.
yes. She's
Another scene
another
of her.
just like amazingly powerful
She is.
like
She really
character. Like
is.
she's so cool. I
And
want more Ahsoka.
yes, please. Um, I'm gonna bring up a different scene though, because this is also a really good one that I like made note of on purpose. Um, the Order 66 scene
Mhm.
is a great one for her. She comes back and the clones of Rex of all people, who was one of her most trusted people, points a gun at her, and she's like, "What the fuck's going on?" Like, and she uses all of her training and everything she's ever known, and she does everything she can to not only get Rex back, which she achieves, and get out. And then she becomes one of the few Jedi that survived. I think it shows her intelligence. It
Mhm.
shows her purpose as a not all of her purpose, but a purpose of her character where she was able to get out, which then leads to, I feel, more things within. Once again, you wouldn't have the "I am no Jedi" scene if it wasn't for that, because if she didn't survive Order 66, she never would have found Anakin again. Um, you know, um,
And
and
she
then
too, she like
everything
she like restarts the well, not she restarts. She kind of starts the rebellion, like right
in a way,
as Fulcrum is the her code name,
yes, I think so. I believe that's right.
right? Like yeah. So she kind of like
Doubting,
starts it almost.
yeah, yeah, and she has like some badass scenes in there. There's a scene of her on the table where she's deflecting all of the lasers from all the clones. She gets Rex out. She gets herself out, and then I love the scene where at the very end where she puts all the clone trooper helmets, really sad, but all the clone trooper helmets on the sticks, and kind of like almost like has I like to think she had her own little funeral for them in that moment. Um, and she gets out and she goes off and does her thing. And she makes her way and finds the Phantom and the whole crew on the Phantom and everything like that, and goes off and has her life. One of the few that I'm gonna say it again. One of the few Jedi to survive Order 66. There were not many.
Mhm.
You know, I think that's really powerful.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. It's one of my favorite scenes.
I think my favorite, I don't know if it's like my favorite, but it's one that comes into mind right away is when Jin in Rogue One is talking to Mon Mothma and everyone, and she has her like rebellions are built on hope line, and she's trying to convince them to go steal the Death Star plans, and you can just see um, her passion and just her assertiveness in that moment. And I just, yeah, I don't know, it just really sat with me. It was just kind of a scene where when she was done, I was like, wow, that made me feel something. So yeah, I really like that. I like that scene a lot.
I'm gonna talk about Leia again, um, because so maybe so I'm a New Hope. When I first saw A New Hope as a child, um, Leia. It was like the first time that I can really recall seeing a character like Leia on screen. I always and no like knocking like Disney princesses or whatever because I love Disney princesses too. But Leia was so different than any other type of woman character I saw, and so when you see her like which we talked about, like she takes the blaster, she makes the decision like to go into the trash compactor, she moves the story along where the boys are sort of like bumbling. That was like I just fell in love with the character. Like I wanted to be Leia. Flash forward to like now as an adult woman, I have such a great appreciation for Leia in A New Hope when you really think about like what she goes through and how she perseveres and her like amount of resolve. She is taken by the Empire. She is tortured. She then her Alderaan completely destroyed, family, friends. She like remains committed to her cause. She does not waver, and she stays focused on what she has to do. There's like a funny like meme that goes around, I think, about A New Hope. Essentially like she's ends up consoling Luke right at the end of A New Hope, and
Yeah,
like
Yeah.
but it shows like the difference in, and like I love Luke Skywalker, so like no no slight to Luke Skywalker,
yeah.
but I think it shows the difference in like Luke was like sort of like very sheltered farm boy and doesn't have the experience that Leia has, but also I think like women often have to kind of put themselves aside and what they're going through aside in order to move whatever needs to be moved forward, and often like console like like to play that, and so I just felt like I feel like there's so much in A New Hope that demonstrates female empowerment in so many different ways. Like she takes charge, but she also has to put aside what she is going through in order to advance what she knows is right. And she's so like committed, like she just does not waver. She doesn't get tempted by the dark side, not even like for self-preservation. She just remains committed to like what is right. And so I just think it's such a great example of a strong woman and female empowerment, but just I think anyone, like man, woman, anyone can like really admire her, particularly in that film.
She truly is like a pillar. Like
Yeah, she's like
she's yeah. She really is everybody's like support. So I'm gonna bring it back to Jin. Um, and this might not be so much a moment of empowerment, um, but I guess like it is in a way. But at the very end of Rogue One, when she's on the beach with Cassian and she's just like they're holding each other and she's looking out and just watching literally everything come to an end, and like she just sort of like she just like closes her eyes and like accepts it, and like it's just like again, it's just this moment that shows, I think, again, just like the strength that she had of like she's accepted this and she's content in a way with, I think, her decision and what she was able to do, and like this moment of like it was all worth it. And I thought that was like again, just such an incredible moment that, yeah, like you said, like it just sort of like sits with me.
Hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I think like just as women in society, I mean, at least for me, like I think we're kind of taught to second guess ourselves, and it can be difficult for me to make a decision where I'll kind of be like, "Oh, somebody needs to back this decision, or what if it's the wrong decision?" Or, and I think that we tend to do that more than men. Whereas like men just have this sometimes crazy confidence, and I'm like, where did that come from?
Yeah, it's almost like
But
impulsive. Like, this is a great idea. It's like,
yeah,
did you think about
yeah, and you're like, it's not, but okay, sure. No, but and I mean, I envy that, and I think that, yeah, I think that's something that sits with me with Leia, and like you were saying with Jin, like just kind of they they knew what they wanted, they made the decision, they had the goal, and they didn't waver. And there was a lot of things happening to make them think that it wasn't the right decision or it wasn't the right path, but they didn't let any of that, you know, they didn't let any of that get to them. They didn't give up. And that's something that sits with me just in my everyday life, that, oh, I mean, I understand it's a fictional character, but I want to take a piece of that and just kind of, just take a page from that book, and be more like that in my everyday life. And I just think that's really cool that they created these characters for us.
yeah, to have that confidence and that resolve. Yeah.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
totally agree. I too have like definitely have a lot of trouble when it comes to like,
Yeah.
oh, I have this idea or this like thing that I want to do, and then I end up never doing it because it's like, well, that sounds like maybe this is really dumb, or maybe like nobody's gonna understand it, nobody's gonna get it, and what would have happened if I did like go through with it if I had that same confidence and that same resolve that they do, you change the world
Yeah.
quite literally.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
Star Wars, that's what they did, and it's really amazing that again there was this opportunity for it to come from a woman and not just like the man, not just the hero coming to save the day. Like
Mhm.
there's so many instances where it was down to women and our strength and how unique our strength is, and that it's not just physical, but we can like our strength in being compassionate even when we're going through so much of our own pain and anguish and loss. Like we can still be there for somebody else and be like, I you can cry on my shoulder, I'm here for you. It's a different type of strength, and that's what rebellions are built on.
Those emotions are important, and the
Hmm.
emotions that come from the different things that we go through. And I feel like they help fuel us to be as important as we can be. You know, a turning point. That strength comes from those emotions. And I think that characters like Leia, I think a lot of her strength came from everything she went through. She had that hope. That's an emotion. That's a
Hmm.
feeling that's powerful. And that's I feel like that's very much what drove her to be as I mean, I feel like that's kind of a given, but I feel
Hmm.
like that's what really drove her to be everything that she was through her entire life, you know.
Yeah, she never lost it. She never lost that
No,
that last bit of hope. Well, I mean, I think on those really amazing notes, I think that's a great place to call it for tonight. So, thank you guys so much for joining me today. I really had a lot of fun with this discussion and sort of looking at the side of Star Wars that it's not just blasters and lightsabers and cool ships, you know. So thank you guys so much for joining me tonight. For all of you who are watching, thank you so much for joining us as well. And you know the drill, like, subscribe, all that jazz. And may the force be with you.